you. Grace, are you ready? Mr. Kleinpeter, you good to go?
I'm ready.
Alan? Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to call this October 5th, 2022 budget meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Pliskevich?
Here.
Ms. Lloyd?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Sight?
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Here.
Mr. Reddinger?
Here.
Mr. Lister is not here.
At this time, I'd like to report on our last executive session. We discussed personnel, real estate, and matters of litigation. No action was taken. At this time, do I have public comment on agenda items? Seeing no public comment. Agenda item number 1, administration and finance.
Okay. In 2022, the administration and finance actual to budget, the admin, payroll, and benefits is running slightly under plan, but there aren't any major variances there. The finance, payroll, and benefits are running under plan due to the open financial assistant position. The expense side, administration is running on plan, and finance is running a little over plan due to credit card fee expense. This is the expense that the borough absorbs on behalf of the residents, coming from the credit cards, instead of billing that back. So I raised that in 2023. For the 2023 budget, some pretty general across the board raises in both departments, 3%. I did do a 6% increase to health benefits, and there's a 5% increase to insurances. However, we're still talking to Josh Kilmer about workman's comp increases that may impact the budget. We don't know how much that would be at this point.
We don't know exactly, but our, what do they call it, our experience mod
Yeah.
increased 9%. It will be increasing 9% next year due to the workman's comp claims that we've had recently. And they pretty much are all out of the police department.
For 2023, again, the expense side was the 5% increase in insurances. Administration actually dropped their overall expense due to a reduction in legal services by around $18,700. In finance, we are over $12,000 against 2022, and the major is the credit card fee increase, as well as the new Tyler online billing. Does anybody have any questions about the admin or finance areas? The other one I would like to go over is the in the general fund, where there aren't any presentations, the tax collector, fire marshal, Middletown Volunteer Fire Department, EMS, EMA, solid waste, the library, and conservation. In 2022, pretty much all departments are on plan. Historic marker and signs has a plan of 5,000, but it's not spent. And historic restoration plan for 500, which is not spent. On the 2023 projected expenses for those same categories, I did add in $2,400 annually for a tax database subscription if the tax database development is approved by council. So I put that in there in anticipation of that. Telephone was increased for EMS by 1,650. So there you go, Ellen, there's your increase on telephone.
Yeah.
The solid waste contract is up 38,000 based on our 5-year contract with them. And the customer rate also increased in the budget. This year, we started to track woody waste separately from Public Works. So you'll see a budget in there of 7,900, and that's for woody waste specific expenses that we pulled out of Public Works. So Matt's tracking that separately, and that's including maintenance for the gates, card reader, the beast and the grinder, and the electric for the site. The other departments, I did not make any changes to those departments' budgets.
Sally, may I ask, please, the signs and historic markers, which ones are they?
That's what we were just talking about. I'm not sure if they're for Matt or those were specific for historic restoration. I'll have to look at that.
When I was on that commission, we did not have a separate line for markers and plaques and that. So I'm thinking it's Matt's.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And what historic signs are around the town? The ones that are
The blue ones.
the blue with the gold print?
Yeah, and we had nothing to do with that.
Right, right.
I thought Bob was looking to get new ones. Wasn't Mr. Hauser putting a plan together to get new ones that mimic like the city of Harrisburg?
Oh,
I
that
just-
was the Wayfor signs, I think they're called.
Oh,
That was something entirely different.
I just remember that over the
Yeah.
years.
Well, there's 5,000 in here for signs and historic markers near the bottom of the page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
you
don't
got
have
that
any
right there.
details. It says one sign.
Is that what this is?
That is a request from the Historic Restoration to,
I see.
they're requesting this amount of monies for next year. Was there one specific sign that Matt was working on last year? That was for, because I have in here one
I
sign.
can think of two in town that are the blue ones with the
Oh, the
gold
one at the
print
building?
that
But
are,
doesn't go in there.
they look pretty old, you know, they could use some freshening up. I don't know if you get a whole sign or you just repaint and re-stencil, I don't know.
Matt wasn't working on any historic markers that I know of. He was working on gateway signs to the borough. He's also working on, he did some work last year on, like, these wooden signs we have at the buildings, but nothing with historic markers.
With historic.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Pretty cool. But I think that's what the $5,000 that was in, wasn't there 5,000 in the budget this year? But I don't-
For 2022,
for
yes.
2022.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I don't know, was Miss Kane planning to come tonight or not?
She said she was coming when I spoke to her yesterday, but it looks like something should come up.
Yeah, maybe she has the time wrong, but, this came in just recently, probably today, that we copied for you and put in front of you there. The Historic Restoration Commission is requesting for 2023, $50,000 budget for the creation of a National Historic District Survey, and $1,500 for replenishment of Historic Restoration Commission plaques. And I think those are the ones that go on buildings. And record digitization, that's probably a service for them to digitize some of their photos and records, $2,500. So this all totals 54 $50,000.
Mr. Klein, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, this $50,000, does this reflect that presentation from Frank Grumbine that we had?
It does.
That's
I
what
will
it sounds-
just say I strongly oppose this study. Strongly.
Well, considering it was already done, I don't know why it would be $50,000.
If we have $50,000 for this, we have money for a sign for Huffer Park,
Yep,
in my opinion.
That's,
That's just my.
well,
two
we don't
cents.
have 50,000.
So, I'm just saying that's
So-
just where I stand. I'm just
So we
one.
don't. That,
Well, as you recall, I believe it was last year, council turned down a request
thank
that
you, honey.
the planning commission, codes and planning commission had to redo or update the Middletown Comprehensive Plan. So that was another large chunk of money for a study that is more,
Mm-hmm.
the entirety of the towns, not just in historic, but actually,
It
you know,
includes
where
the
we're going as far
historic,
as the
right?
town. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
include everything. It would include, you know, it looks at parks, roadways, services, all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So do we want to consider anything here, or are we going to discuss that later?
I'm okay with considering the other line items. I think that's great, really good projects. I'm just not on board with the survey.
Well, when we had the presentation just a month or two ago, a number of council people, or some of you spoke in response to that, but I didn't hear anybody speak positively toward it, as I recall.
Right.
So this is put in front of you again, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess at some point we'll have to give Ms. King an answer as far as
Mm-hmm.
council want to do that. You know, if you don't want to have a historic district overlay, then
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't spend the money for some
Mm-hmm.
consultant to do the survey.
Right.
But if you're interested in that, then you have to do a survey to move in that direction.
Well, I have no interest in doing a survey.
Neither do I.
I will be more than happy to give her $4,000 for,
Yeah.
record digitization and the replenishment of the plaques.
I'm sorry.
I can't imagine that record digitization, I just can't think that's that much. I
I
can't.
don't know.
I was going to ask if Joanna was here, what records do they have that the Historic Society wouldn't have?
Well, they have their own stuff on the buildings. But those files are nothing in I mean, they've got files like this thick, and we've got,
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what is the rationale for keeping separate records? You know, would they not just work with your files, incorporate? Just wondering out loud.
well, they only do buildings.
Right, I know, but
We have
you are the
everything
more
else.
established organization.
Right.
It seems to me.
You say the buildings is the historic private buildings in town. where they
I'm
help-
sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're talking about the private buildings in town where they help people get.
Right, where they plaque
Where they
them.
have plaques.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was told they cannot get the plaques that we have used since the beginning anymore. So I would like to see what they can get and an estimate on several of them before we make that decision.
Mhm.
It's fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of detail on this budget to,
Right.
yeah.
I think we need more data before we can make decisions.
But do you want me to add an amount into the budget for right now to account for the possibility, or wait on it? How quickly do you think she can get back to us?
When's our next budget meeting?
11th.
Tuesday the 11th, right. If it were me, I would wait and see if she can come and give us, Just better information, better numbers.
Yep.
Well, the other thing we have, if we have a 5,000 in the 2022 budget, putting a placeholder for 4,000 in, it's pretty much $1,000 less than we have next year. It shouldn't affect the budget, right? Or-
Right, well, I have to find out from Matt if that 5,000 is actually his, if he's going to utilize that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's find out some, let's get some more of this data so that we can make some decisions. Before we do move on, you mentioned EMS. What was it? What did you mention?
That's a 3-year contract we have with them, EMS, that we just signed, I think this year, for 3 more years.
Yes.
And it didn't go up.
Yeah, it held the price.
It's 56,700 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's South Central Regional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Agenda item number 2, codes.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Good evening, Rucky.
Yes,
This is your first budget meeting.
my first budget meeting in a borough capacity. I had many as a educator capacity. All right, so if you look at our forecast here, you can see in 2022, the codes payroll was running under due to the codes officer position. Zoning board still don't have anyone to fill that in. And then for the expenses, our supplies are basically utilized, but we don't have to do anything for the rest of the year. The outsourcing due to Commonwealth codes is getting over, but we can offset that. And then our codes dues and subscriptions were high, but we don't have anything more to do for the rest of the year either. Expenses overall for the zoning have gone high, but that we would likely assume was because of everything else going high, labor costs, supply costs, you name it. So for that forecast in 2023, we're looking for the increase for the part-time hire, the officer hire for hopefully by July for 2023, and then typical salary increases, benefit increases. And then for the expenses, we're requesting to have a vehicle lease for $800 a month. The vehicles that we currently have are getting a little worn out, and Matt is looking to get that taken care of. And the support from Commonwealth Codes, you can see, is going to be continuing. And the insurance for the vehicle obviously would increase due to the new vehicle. So those are overall general projections.
2 things I want to note. The increase in the part-time hire, that's Bethany, that we've already done. And the vehicle lease is just a continuation of the one that's already approved for this year.
Are we going to get rid of the black?
So that one is still on the list. I think our goal is to get rid of the white one. That hasn't been inspected and doesn't appear to be running.
Forgot about that, actually.
Everyone seems to forget. I don't even have a key to try it, so I don't even know what it's like. And then we still have the Trailblazer. So we're going to utilize one or the other. We have had both in the maintenance repairs for some time. And it's getting to the point where they're not becoming as reliable as we'd like them to be.
Yeah, I believe that Trailblazer was bought probably around 2005 or 4. I remember they bought it when they crossed there from Daly's Golf category, and it was used then. So you know, it's pretty old.
Municipal.
I think some of the cars are worn more than the Trailblazer, but I think
Yeah.
the Trailblazer's older.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Jason?
All right.
Are we still advertising for a zoning officer? No. But when the budget gets passed, is that when?
That's not a priority right now, no.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Agenda item number 3.
Ian, I do have a question.
Oh,
I thought we completely filled the zoning board.
But in 2022, it wasn't full
Oh,
completely during the
okay.
year.
Okay,
So that's why it's under.
okay, I got you.
There weren't stipends sent out.
Director?
That's good, that's good.
Good evening.
You say so.
It's no rush.
I understand.
So we'll go over the narrative here real quick. For 2022, police payroll is tracking under, obviously, because we're short 2 positions, full-time, and we're short 2 in part-time. We are currently funded for 13 full-time positions in 2022, and that will continue in 2023. We are short 2 full-time positions. We have 1 young man in the academy who's committed to start with us as soon as he graduates.
Great news.
And we advertised for testing a week or 2 ago, once you guys approved that, and that's scheduled to occur November 5th.
Some more great
So
news.
we have 2 officers who, one is planning on retiring in January, and one is off on a workers' comp issue, which probably will not return. So the testing's at the right time, and hopefully we get enough applicants that we can fill those positions earlier in the year. This year, we lost Scott Yoder to retirement. Tyler Zaring resigned, and George Miller was a part-timer who worked full-time. He resigned, retired also. And we had Scott Tantlinger, who was a part-time employee, who he resigned this year too. We have 1 part-timer who's working on a pretty regular basis, and we have 1 still on the books who hasn't worked for a period of time. We posted part-time positions earlier this year, and we received no applicants. Police expenses in general, employee development or the training budget was significantly under budget based on the inability to send people to training this year based on staffing restrictions. We're usually pretty active in the training realm, and we try to stay that way, and training is highly important in this type of business, and I'm appreciative of the generous training budget that's been in place here. Same with ammunition and weapons. Tactical range training is expensive, especially when it comes to the expenditure of ammunition and less lethal. We have multiple less lethal options which cost money to train with, so that line item is significantly under budget. In fact, we dropped that particular line item a few thousand. I'll get to that a little later. Legal expenses is 70% of budget, but we've incurred less costs so far this year. Vehicle leases this current year were right on line, and we paid out 2 leases this year, I believe.
No, 4 were paid out. They ended this year. 3 of them ended this year.
Okay. Dues and subscriptions was over budget a few $1,000s. There was a bill that was carried over and wasn't paid until this year. I'm not sure if I found it in my office or somehow it got lost in the shuffle of the transition of leadership in the organization, so that got paid late. Some projected budget items for 2023. The contractual raise for the police officers is 3% across the board. I think Sally had mentioned earlier the 5% increase in medical expenses is reflected in the budget. We plan on filling the full-time and the part-time positions as quickly as possible. Payroll and benefits are planned at approximately $200,000 less than this year. that's primarily based on, there was, the part-time budget was extremely high, and there's no way that we would utilize that whatsoever next year. Even if I found, people to work, they would work when directed and needed, and that we wouldn't hit that number. So we were able to reduce the payroll and benefits significantly. As you recall, the employee development line item was raised 11.5 because we agreed to pay some academy reimbursement for new hires. IT contracted services and IT is up $12,000. The MDTs or laptops and all the vehicles had an end of life cycle of 2021. They were not included in the IT plan for replacing computers as a life cycle of a couple every few years. So I put 3 in the budget. They're still operational, but they wouldn't be supported trying to repair or fix them, so we need to start cycling them through. But we should be good there. Vehicle leases, we are leasing 2 new vehicles next year, but that also reduces that line item by $37,000 because I think we had 3 on the lease or 4 on the lease. Vehicle maintenance repairs, we reduced that by $23,000 for next year. One, we're getting rid of some cars, and I think it was a little high to begin with. So we'll see how that goes. Dues and subscriptions is raised $4,000 for cloud retention for when we get the body cameras. We're going to have to increase our cloud storage fees. We currently use GTAC as in-car camera systems. That's about $2,500 a year. We're getting GTAC body cameras, which will allow them to integrate, but that'll increase that cloud storage by about $4,000. I'll be honest, I don't know what OPEB is. What's OPEB?
It's other,
Post-employment benefits.
yeah, post-employment benefits.
Okay.
So I'll make a comment about that. They, sorry, Grace. They, every year we review that, and 2022, we didn't plan any funding for the OPEB. This year, it was recommended by the auditors that we plan a minimum of $200,000 for the police. So if you'll see his plan, his expenses are over by 174 on the expense line. That's mainly due to that OPEB being added in.
So the things that affect OPEB fund is a large pot of money that's sitting there for post-employee benefits, which would be lifetime health care, which some of our retirees get, medical, that sort of thing. So it's based on an actuary evaluation of how many people, how many retired police officers on the payroll, and what they anticipate the life expectancy and all the things, how much money should be put in each year to keep that fund solvent. And one of the major reasons there wasn't anything put in last year was the market did so well on our investments that we didn't have to put our own money in. Now the market's going the other way. And the actuary looks at that, and our folks from PFM weigh in on that as well. They say, you better start putting money back in it this year. So, and they look at the age of existing employees as well, when they might be going out and how that's going to impact that fund.
And just as a comment, I think next year I'll be able to have a much better idea and have a much more accurate budget for you after being here a full year. I think it's important that the budget, I would prefer to be right on or over a couple bucks than have $25,000 sitting in my vehicle repair budget that in no way, shape, or form I'm going to spend. So it gives you guys a little better accurate picture of what to do with the resources you have. So I think some of the items are legitimately under amount because of lack of staffing. I think some of it might have been planning too. So we'll do a much better job next year of being on budget. So.
Well, thank you for the good job this year of keeping overtime expenses tamped down.
Hopefully we can do the same thing next year. especially with full staffing. And with full staffing, the overtime can be used for, actual police work as opposed to just filling shifts.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
that's the plan.
That's the plan, yeah.
Right. That's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we talked about that planning, Sally, that Dan just mentioned, and also the salary. So when we talk about the major increase in our planned expense for next year for the 200,000 toward the OPEB is basically balanced out by some good management this year with our salaries that were well under expected budget and balanced that out. So Dan should be commended for everything he's done with the police scheduling and the limited staff he's had since he's been here. It's just a really amazing job. Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely.
And I
Thank you,
will
Dan.
say that both Jason and Dan did a great job just with the budget. They really focused in on it. They were very thoughtful. So they both did a really good job in developing these budgets for 2023.
Second that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or concerns? At this time, do I have general public comment? Seeing no public comment, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Uh,
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a record tonight.